and philosophy in the era of digital transformation, advancing sustainability through the framework of Humanity 5.0. We have among us the distinguished guest here, starting from Dr. Abdul Wahid Usmani Sahab, Director QEC, JPMC, one of the prominent personality in language, linguistics, and of course, education policies. Next to Kazmi, the technical expert, women's parliamentary, Caucus-Sindh UN women. And she has been, by the way, I was privileged and honored to be her student. And now, of course, I'll be asking some questions from her regarding the topic that we have discussed. Next to her, we have none other than Professor Dr. Sajida Zaki, Chairperson, Department of English, Linguistics and Allied Studies, University of Engineering and Technology. And of course, she has a prominent and eminent role in shaping the way of the students. And I'm one of the students of Dr. Sajida Zaki as well. And next to her, we have Dr. Noorunnisa Khan, Assistant Professor of Philosophy, Iqra University, Karachi campus. And of course, today's discussion would be encompassing around one of the phenomenal idea when language, the blend of language and technology comes together. Of course, we usually make pyramid out of it. We usually identify and scaffold one of the idea which is the prevailing one in terms of the language and the technology. They go hands in hands. And of course, as we keep talking about it, so of course we will be having short of time regarding that. However, I would just move forward without further ado to shed some light on the topic by the prominent scholars and professors sitting here. So of course, starting with the very first question, Dr. Wahid Usmani Sahab, the question that is the prevailing idea, that of course we'll be talking about the policy, the way languages evolve, the way language is brought to the classroom, and then of course in the practical life. So what do you think, Dr. Abdul Wahid Usmani Sahab, that what role should educational institutions play in integrating sustainability within language, teaching and policy? How they could go hands in hand in order to pave way for language and technology, building careers for our Gen Z or of course the upcoming generation?
Well, Bismillah al-Rahman. Thank you much for inviting me today in this discussion. My background is quality assurance primarily, and I've been working in quality assurance for the last 15 years. And I've been to different institutions, and to me, institution plays a very significant role in shaping policies and practices. Unfortunately, in language teaching, this did not happen. If you look at the present situation, we don't have any language policy at the level of national level. Now, when I say national level language policy, I simply mean to say that we keep doing experiments by calling it a single national curriculum or language teaching through using English or Urdu or switching off the languages. Supreme Court decision was there to use Urdu in the offices, but even then the matter was ignored. Institutions can play a significant role. They can integrate technology into language teaching. At present, Gen Z or all those who are the user of technology, they are practicing it, but in practice, institutions have not integrated into their curriculum. What they can do? Number one, to formulate curriculum based on technology that is prevailing, number one. Number two, they need to decide whether they are going to teach language as a subject or language as a social tool. Currently, we are not using it as a social a tool. We are using it as a course. So what happens that we teach it at different levels, introduce several language aspects, but we fail to integrate technology into it. The important part is to integrate technology using language as a tool. Thank you.
Dr. Saab, I just, in connection with the same question, I just want you to shed some light on this phenomena, where we say that when was the last time when the language policy holistically was constructed or changed or evolved for the greater benefit of course, encompassing around the urban and rural areas where we look into the linguistics diversity and the differences. So when was the last time that was looked into in detail and it was changed for the greater benefit of the nation?
As I said before, language policy was not developed. It was developed in chunks. For instance, at the level of primary education, a certain policy was given that single national curriculum will be introduced. Now, single national curriculum idea was very simple. At the level of the middle, then intermediate, and then university, curriculum should be systematically connected. But even then, in that, language was placed as a subject, not as a system that connects the whole. And what happened as a result? That English was separated, Urdu was separated, local languages was ignored, and then the idea could not be successful. Now we may be moving towards another experiment, but unless we develop a single national policy deciding that whether we are going to use what language, what will be the role of national language, what will be the role of the English and other languages, and what will be the role of local languages. That is the missing part in our policies as well.
Exactly. Well point taken, Dr. Saab. Moving down the line towards Dr. Hina Hussain Kazmi, identifying your expertise, the way you have been working phenomenally in the industry and enlightening souls in terms of language, linguistics, education, and whatnot there that you are not doing. So how can you identify the way where we can say that how can digital technologies support multilingualism without compromising cultural and linguistics identity?
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very valid question, because we are at this time of change of a whole genre of linguistics and language learning and teaching, where the influx of digital technology is marring our local languages. So with this, this change of genre, what we have to be careful and what the policy makers have to be sensitized on is is to make sure that our local languages are also being made part of this technological resources and the tools that are coming in. Because if we do not, then already living in Pakistan, we know that our pride had always been the languages that exists in our society and the way their speakers were using it, which is now slowly going down. We have never felt, we have never worked on how rich we are in languages and how rich our culture is in other languages other than national language and the foreign language and the second language that we use. This technological tools, our youth should work on it. We should start integrating different departments in universities as this computer and IT department is emerging and coming up with new ideas. It is to be merged with sciences, with social sciences, with languages, so that we have this purpose of language as communication rather than just making it a social status quo that we have still in our society. I have been working in and out interiors of Pakistan, almost all provinces, including previously called FATA. And I see that this strong entity in linguistics is not considered and is not taken as a treasure to our sector. So this technology and integration of technology and the sustainability of local languages, native languages, and integration of different, curricula is the solution, I believe.
I see. In one of the workshops when I was conducted, organized by the Oxford Press, some questions were raised there and they were thought-provoking. I just want to put one of the question here in order to answer it in this way. One of the participants asked a question, I'm just quoting and unquoting that question, that you are teaching a curriculum, a cultural reflection of a country, to the children of a country where even they do not have the basic needs in life. I mean, what they teach in Oxford books, they were specifically mentioning the Halloween, they were mentioning the other events usually organized there. So you are actually teaching to our kids these events that you strongly believe in. Maybe there's a cultural reflection that you people usually adopt, and now you're teaching it to our kids. So of course, even they don't know our own culture, and there's a mix, a blend or confusion between two cultures where what to do, where to go, what not to do. And even if they adopt it, they adopt in such a broken way that we see the disasters among our youth and generation. So how do you look at this way? Do you think that we should be having a curriculum in our country the way we have been raised in a society? Societal, cultural norms should be reflected in the curriculum.
Being sitting in the previous half of the session, I really liked one idea by the panel, the previous panel, where they say that this upcoming time is maybe we are not able to handle the generation coming up, and listening to that, it strengthened my idea that we should have young blood coming in and taking the reins and taking partnership with the generation, with our generation, with the generation which is very valuable and above us. Yes, you're right. There was time when teaching Halloween and teaching Christmas was a symbol of status quo. But contextualization in language has become a reality now. It is no more a discussion topic now. Every country is generating their own context into language learning, so that the language, when it is used for different specific purposes, has its own vocabulary, has its own genre, and has its own flavor. We lack in this being part of this curriculum area. Whenever, with the government or without the government, I sit as a curriculum expert, materials and the contents for teaching, language teaching, and I feel that we ourselves, the linguists, those who are students, those who are experts, we also feel that the content for teaching English doesn't lie around us. This is our basic belief that is developed within the classrooms that are there in the universities. So contextualization has become a reality, and all around the world people are doing it. Countries are doing it, and they have developed their own dialects. They have developed their own type of Englishes in the world, and we are still stuck around this issue. When I train teachers who are from interiors, I tell them that you are more rich in content, because when I have to tell my student in an urban city like Karachi what an animal looks like, a cow, a goat, a tree, a field, so I have to show them pictures, or I have to wait till Bakra Eid to show them what cow and goat look like. But your students have lots of materials and the content lying around you that can be used for language teaching. So not taking much time, contextualization is a reality, and in the curriculum it's badly needed.
Ji, Dr. Sahab, you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, this should be viewed holistically. Someone who is using OUP books, we need to see the entire picture. The schools, those who have chosen their books, who has chosen that? The owner of the institution, or a team of so-called experts. Now, they believe that if the books are localized, parents will not treat school as good as it should be. So they are forced to take the material that is not contextualized. And in that circumstances, what happens, the student, when they read it, the comment was very right when somebody said, as you mentioned. But the point is, it cannot be isolated. Somebody who is going to use these books, he has certain idea behind. Similarly, parents, all the stakeholders are responsible. We need to go for the change of mind first. We need to realize that language without context cannot be practiced. Whatever language that you are going to teach, the target language must be contextualized, otherwise you will always be alien in the system. That realization is missing.
Exactly. Thank you, Dr. Sab. Moving towards Professor Dr. Sajida Zaki, keeping in view your expertise and the way you have been working in the industry, what do you think that how can language policy adapt to digital transformation in the era of artificial intelligence, where we ask students not to use ChatGPT, use ChatGPT, not to use ChatGPT? 5 courses have been taken by students in a semester. Some teachers encourage, some teachers discourage. They are just hanging like a pendulum in the air. So how do you reflect on the idea of how can language policy adapt to digital transformation in the era of artificial intelligence?
Thank you so much, Nasir. I'm really grateful to the conference organizers for having me over. And thank you to all my wonderful panelists for contributing to the discussion. Your question, language policy. As already Dr. Usmani pointed out, that we do not have interest nor a consensus to have a language policy that is irrespective of our own ethnicities or our own grouping, can bring the human and the linguistic capital of this particular country in the center, as you have humanity in the center. That's your conference theme. So we do not have that. So let's take a look at our languages. 72 plus languages, and we don't know what to do with what language. We are so confused. Every person brings their own ideologies and beliefs and imposes on either as part of your teaching or as part of your learning, or it is evident, visible in your community or in your own personal behaviors, in your own personal discourses. So we have this kind of sensitivity in our context. We don't know what to do. I recently identified that when we talk about so many languages, we do not have enough time frame or enough resources available in the curriculum to give them space. Technology offers a wonderful opportunity. Mind it, we had invisibility of languages, and through those languages, we had invisibility of the communities. With technology, there is a bigger risk of greater marginalization. Technology is not providing equitable opportunities. We have more English and less presence of other languages on the digital platforms. How many languages are available in artificial intelligence on different platforms? That is a single question to begin with. So technology does offer a supportive framework to the language policy where we really are interested in safeguarding, promoting, enriching, developing, passing on, and retaining our languages. However, it cannot be done by one stakeholder. It cannot be done by one particular community. We all need to come together. And when we are coming together, we have people who are the stakeholders of the language because they are the communities or the people who speak it. And then there are language experts, technologists sitting there who can all come together and develop a way where we can create opportunities for learning, for documenting, for passing on, promoting these languages online. We've got cases from Spanish language. South Korean is rising. We have international languages around us that from a very small community, that language became a multi-billion-dollar industry. Through technology, they are learning A1, A2, B1, B2. Why can't we do that for our own? Another very important point is that when we have to do a language policy, we have so far only talked about top-down approaches. Somebody sitting somewhere, some people, few people with a limited data, with a limited grassroots pulse, they make a decision about what the language policy, as Dr. Usmani already pointed out, from one to the other, from this grade to the other grade, for this particular level, we've been moving back and forth. We do not have a consistent plan, which can be strategic, phase out, which can probably take us somewhere. So maybe we would like to think about how we would like to involve all of these stakeholders in developing a bottom-up or at least a balanced top-down and bottom-up strategy, isn't it? When you talk about bottom-up, you need to take the stakeholders, the communities involved. And actually, these are the communities who will promote. I've heard so much about the research on language. We are doing language documentation. Which language documentation? A particular, they'll pick up a regional language and they'll document that. Is that enough? Beyond documentation, don't you need that language to grow and thrive? There will be a day the language will not be passed on to the next generation. Then what? Documentation करके आप छोड़ दीजिए, कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला. Language will not be growing at all, developing, or it will not be a healthy language. So it means that in technological, we need to create now those communities who are probably sitting anywhere in the world. We have a Sindhi diaspora that is in Malaysia. We have a Sindhi diaspora that is in Singapore. We have a Sindhi diaspora in India. We have a Sindhi diaspora in Pakistan. Can't these communities interact and they can all survive, sustain, and pass on languages? They can create their own. I mean, there are stories, there is folklore, there are songs, there are probably educational videos needed, there are probably resources needed in order to pass on that vocabulary. आपने देखा होगा, vocabulary is going by the day, by the hour. So somebody needs to take these efforts into materializing those corpus develop कीजिए जिसके ऊपर आपका language policy बनेगा. Language policy alone, making a decision that what will be the status of our language, that will not help. So probably I've tried to give a bigger picture around it.
Indeed, Dr. Saiba, and your thought-provoking discussion remind me of one of the line that is that a blind man is searching a black cat in a dark room, and of course he will not find the cat. So that is happening in terms of the linguistics parts that we are dealing with, and of course this is something that needs to be done. Thank you very much, Dr. Sajida. Moving forward down the line towards Dr. Noorunnisa Khan. Dr. Noorunnisa, the question is related to the philosophical aspect of the language that we usually get along with. So what philosophical changes are needed in the language education to align with the human-centered vision of Humanity 5.0? Your opinion is needed.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much, Nasir, for having me and sharing this stage with this team panelist. Already, we talked about the contextualization of textbook, and then we also talk about, Dr. Sajida put it in broader context, how to, promote linguistic diversity. Now, I would like to shed light on some broader aspect. I would like to see how AI is, because we are talking about AI, right? We have been struggling how to decolonize our curriculum, our textbooks, but the point is now our youth, or most of the youth globally, they are using AI, right? They are not reading the books. Now, how AI works, I think we need to understand, right? Here we need to struggle about how to stop digital colonization. Why? Because I don't know, we all use AI, but how many of us are aware that how AI works? It's based on a system which is called NLP, Natural Learning Processing. So it depends on the data set, right? The larger data set, and then it accurates answer based on the data set provided to AI. And then because of that larger data set, AI is able to give the accurate answer, and then of course it improves it adds more data set. Now the problem is that here we see that the data set is mostly from the countries or Western world where the language is English, right? The more than 50-60% data set is given in English. So the point is, when we talk about language, we forget that language is not only the mean of communication, right? It's a cultural mark, but it's also identity. Language is what we are. It's the way we being, right? We exist. it's also linked to the power. So for example, if we do not move towards digitalization of our textbook in other languages like Urdu, like Sindhi, Punjabi, and other languages of the world, these languages and their narratives are going to be invisible. That's a very important point. That only so as you know, our panelists talked about that we don't have the policy when we talk about in Pakistani context, but now we need to work in the global, globalized scenario where we need to compete, because the division, there was a time when the division was about literacy and those who are not literate. Then it was division about the technology, those who have access to technology and who do not have. Now it's about AI, those who are present, what narrative are present in AI, and those who are invisible in AI, right? So the point is, because if your language, if you are unable to interact with the AI in your own language, that means with all the access, you don't have access to technology. What educational platform, what knowledge is available, you can't access that because it's not in your own language, right? Then it is connected with the economic opportunities as well. For example, if you are not able to interact in your own language, then remote working, the global market, you miss global market. You missed the opportunities which are present in AI-driven industries, right? So when we talk about language policy, that's also important, that how different countries, for their own languages, they are working on the data set, building the infrastructure of this sort of data set, right? And for that, there is a lot of work need to be done. As I said, that digitalization of textbook, your history, your oral history, your written history in your own language, right? So that's we need to understand. So when we talk about the philosophical shift, I think I strongly believe that we need to work on the digital literacy, because we in the previous session also we talked about that AI, how it becomes challenging in while the generation using AI, if they don't have mindfulness, if they don't have critical thinking, if they don't have purposefulness, and if they don't understand how AI works. So believe me, because we are going to be victim of AI, because AI, it's not we are controlling the language in AI. It's AI which decide which language is going to be promoted. It's not in our control. When we talk about language evolution, for example, there was a time when there were different social factors. But look at the other day, I was having a conversation, exchange of text messages with my niece. And I think 70-80% of my messages was like, what does it mean? Or question mark. Because she was responding, IDK, right? So I said, what does it mean? I don't know, right? So a lot of that kind of language, this language is neither being promoted by, for example, the government, the educational institution, neither we are speaking in this language at home. But that shows that how AI is, and the social media network, all are working, evolving. So I think we need to also review the concept of holistic education when we talk about philosophical change. What skills are needed to live a meaningful life with AI or in the era of AI? Because the theme is, when we talk about the Humanity 5.0, it's all about integrating technology but keeping human wellness at the center. Right? So if AI is all about, for example, it's working in sort of when your attention becomes the commodity. So how to be mindful, how to understand that this beautiful, that kind of your attention is, it not leads towards like depletion of the attention resources. So I think the holistic concept of education is needed, where we should focus on the critical thinking, because it's not all about now how to write a sentence, the correct grammar. It's more about interpretive skills, because the data is already there. AI can tell you and write for you in a perfect language. But how to interpret it? How to make it more, for example, environmental, sort of contextualizing it, how to be sensitive to the other realities, that is important. And for that, those kind of skills are needed. You talk about character building, I think that's very important, that we should have purposefulness, mindfulness, and critical thinking skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Najam. Professor Sajida, I just need to have a question from you, because we have a lot of students sitting here along with the English language teachers, and this is what of your epitome that you have been dealing with them. Some questions I will just ask, and I want your opinion regarding that, and that is just define in a crispy line that what should be the ethical use of all these chatbots available here, be it ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gemini. There's a long list of it. And alongside with that, some of the English language professionals at times feel a deprivation sort of feelings at times, that they are at times left out, because language is now dealt in terms of the technological influx that is there. So just these two ideas, ethical use of the chatbots in terms of using language and completing their assignments, and for language professionals, of course, your input would be highly encouraged.
Normally, I teach research students. I'm involved in research, writing, review, and journal publications. So I do tell my students that you have these now tools available that can help you with the very mundane, routine, uncritical, non-creative part of the work. So as long as a work that is not critical, that's not, let's say, original, that's not giving you an ownership on academic intellectual potential, you can pass on that work, or you can do that work taking a particular tool, software application. But on any work that you claim that this is your intellectual, this is your critical, innovative, creative creation, you can never take credit on that. So that part can be, for instance, I can use an AI or chatbot to please download these papers from Web of Science for me, having these keywords. Now, this is a task that I can delegate to a chatbot. I can do it with any app. But when it comes to, I can even get summaries. But when I have to answer a question that where is the research gap that is relevant to my context, that is probably fulfilling some policy or removing a barrier or contributing to SDG for Pakistan, this is something that I have to do. No one else can do it. So I think I've tried to answer it.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Now move to the question and answer session from the audience, of course, right? So volunteers, please circulate the mic. If someone has any question, please, can anyone give her a mic? Kaisa Saab? Volunteers, mics.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for this wonderful and insightful discussions. So my question is from Ma'am Sajida. So how do you envision the role of technology in shaping language teaching and learning in Pakistani classrooms in promoting multilingualism and cultural identity?
There are many technological tools or certain videos, certain resources that are available, or you can access those through the use of certain technological tools. And those can be used in the class for language teaching, whatever languages you are involved in, whatever languages. For instance, when I have to teach in a week, in a single week, a case study of US or American English. So that is a day where I would like to allow my students to develop a word bank on American English with a comparison to British English. So I can allow them to, I can give them a task and use technology. We can also develop a corpus of videos or speech and use that in order to really identify how much of a talk show that was having a panel from Britishers and Americans and Canadians sitting there, where can we pick American English phrases or word level? So that's how we can use it. Plus, I would like to also suggest that artificial intelligence, ChatGPT or any other, they can be phenomenal help when you would like to really develop multiple practice tasks. I do that all the time. So I can develop something for my students, but then they require multiple practice lessons for something. So that can very easily be generated, isn't it? Because your intellectual input is what has to be done. You have identified the objective, you have identified the task, you have identified the outcomes, you have set the parameters. Now that can be developed as many as you want. So it can bring, I mean, humanly it's impossible for me to develop 10 worksheets in a single day for 10 different groups. But this can be done now, so it's an aid to English language teachers.
Very well explained. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Any other question from the audience? Yes, we have a lady at the back.
So my question is from Dr. Noorunnisa. See, language is a very beautiful thing, and we already mentioned about the language diaspora. With one language, there are a lot of dialects within one language itself as well, right? So it has always been a challenge within the policy ke standard of language kya hona chahiye with all the dialects. Now, the short forms the newer generations use, for example, you just mentioned IDK, and its integration within the technology.
Yeah.
So, how to maintain the linguistic standards while not being dismissive of the newer language or acronyms or short forms with the help of AI? Because AI बजाते खुद भी एक challenge है जब हम integrate कर रहे होते हैं like chatbot and the lack of linguistic skills जो कि हम through research देखते जा रहे हैं. So how can that be helpful to maintain all of these things without dismissing the linguistic skills that the current generation has of that particular language, let's say?
All right, thank you for the question. It's a wonderful question. See, when I mentioned, whatever I mentioned, I talked about, so I try to refer to a point which we often miss. That is that we are living in exceptionally new era, right? What language should be used, for example, in educational atmosphere, and what should be the official language. Earlier, it was decided by human beings. They had to great extent, maybe we can say who had the control, who didn't have, but it was human beings who were decided, right? Now, my point was that we need to understand in the world of AI, we no longer, if we don't intervene, the decisions are being made by AI itself on the basis of the data that is provided to it. And that data is obviously it's something that's marginalized many world languages. So, for example, we had a report that out of 7,000 languages, only 1,000 languages are somehow are being used in AI, right? And how many of even 1,000 language, out of 1,000 language, how many are being used meaningfully? Those are very limited knowledge. So my point was that we need to understand, and when we talk about while we are using AI, so this kind of digital literacy is important, right? What do I mean by digital literacy? That how to use AI with safety, critically, safely, critically, efficiently. The point is, we miss the critical factor. We are using AI without knowing how it is working, how it is beneficial for us or not, as the panel, Dr. Sajida also referred, that it can help us in many ways. And there are people who are very optimistic about it, but there are literally scholars who are very skeptic about it if it is used without critical thinking. So my point was that we should have sort of that's policy. The more data set should be incorporated in different languages. That's the only way. Otherwise, the NLP, the way the AI work, that make decision, and that's decision always is not neutral. We need to understand. There are a lot of biases
Yes, please. A very insightful answer, by the way. Yes, Dr. Hina.
Yes. I remember reading when a calculator was invented and brought into the society, people were highly against it. And they think that this mental maths would disappear and people would stop using their brain and this and that. Now we have it here, always in our hand, and we are so trained in deciding when to use a calculator and when to quickly do it in our inside. The point is, this AI is here. What we have to look at is its prompt engineering. Look at it from the other way. Making a chatbot, my chatbot for my teaching is a helper to me, giving me much more productive efforts given from my side. So if we look at it from the other side, it's very helpful. And it's not only for teachers, it's also helpful for students. It's how you learn prompt engineering, so that it becomes a tool for your own help and not something where you are relying and it's steering your life. We have to be technology and these technology tools. So actually we have to be worried on the generation who are coming up, who will be growing with this ease in their hands. So the responsibility is more on the experts and the students who are in higher education doing research on different areas. So it's a shift of responsibility, actually.
Thank you.
One quick addition, actually. Since many of you, or almost all of you, are from higher education institutions, when I say policy shift, and Dr. Hina rightly said that you are the carriers now, you can bring the change. If you look at the curriculum that has been introduced at higher education for BS programs, if you look at the subjects, if you look at the title and the contents, all disconnected from the real world. So it's your responsibility now. You need to decide. Somebody who's coming from intermediate, somebody who's coming from O levels, they have a different background. They have a different language perception. Their use of technology is different. Their humanity is even different. We need to train it the way we are perceiving for the next 5 to 10 years. That's the only thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. We have a last question. If someone wants to ask, is there any question from the audience? So, of course, we'll be just ending this. Yes, please. Who is asking question? No, all right. They say, and I quote, that with every 4 miles, the taste of the water and the dialect of the language changes. And that's how the beauty of the diversity is and the evolution is. And if the language doesn't change, of course, sooner or later, it will die. These are the takeaways, by the way, using AI technology in a better way, the efficient way that could be your assistant, rather, not completely relying on it in a way that it gets things done for you. Of course, it could provide you a framework to follow, a roadmap to follow. That is something that we need to adopt and adapt with later on, and that's something we need to rely on. Apart from that, of course, completely relying on AI could have disasters that we can, of course, that could be a long debate that we can have. However, it could assist you in just solving the problems and then using your analytical, critical, and your interpretative skills that could help you in a way that could solve problems the best way. Thank you very much, all the panelists here, for being here, gracing this event and enlightening these young souls with your knowledge. Thank you very much. A huge round of applause for them. Thank you. Now, of course.
Thank you for such an enlightening session.
We would now like to invite VP Academic Professor Dr. Muhammad Altaf Mukati, Dean Social Sciences Dr. Riaz, and Program Manager Languages Program Sayyid Kaisa Hussain to kindly proceed to the stage and present the token of appreciation to our respected guests and panelists.
Professor Dr. Sajida Zaki. Next, Dr. Hina Hussain Kazmi. Dr. Noorunnisa Khan, Dr. Abdul Wahid Usmani, and our moderator, Mr. Nasirullah Khan. Request you all to please stay on the stage for a group photograph. I request the faculty of English department to also please come on the stage. Thank you, everyone.
We will now go for a lunch break.